Thank you very much for this very kind introduction. Probably I'm not going to tell you too much about the relationships of the things together. The major thing I'm going to talk about is the subject phase matrix. I'm going to introduce this quite soon. Maybe at first I have to emphasize the contents of this talk is in particular the work of Mrs. Barbara Handy. It was the result of her master thesis. Barbara Handy is in the meantime in a company and working very hard on customer projects and things like this. So she wasn't able to be here, and I'm going to present it. On my side I have Max Dirndorfer. He knows probably a lot more about the details, so I'm very happy to have him here. So if I don't know about a couple of details, he's going to help me. Okay, so okay, I have to take this one. No. Oh, okay, it's no problem. Let's do it. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's try it. Yes. Okay. So it's working. Okay. So what is the motivation about these things? So S-BPM and various diagram types usually used with S-BPM, they focus on, and this is what they want to do, they focus on subjects and the processes which are run by the subjects. And well, subjects typically synchronize with each other and with other subjects by sending messages and communicating. So a problem which occurs with S-BPM and various models is that in some cases the models lack some overview. So you can find out about the details with the subject. However, it's not so easy to get an overview of the overall process, which is sometimes interesting for a couple of interested parties, like subjects or others. We tried, or it was tried to expand the subjectivity idea to integrate an overall overview of the process. So 2 years ago in this series, oh, I can do it that way. 2 years ago in this series of conferences, we presented this problem. For example, here, this is a model of a couple of agents in the notarial domain, how they communicate things. So there's a notary and registers and other parties, and they communicate things around. And in this domain, for example, the notary, he wants to have an overview of the overall process because he has to be responsible if everything works correct. And with this diagram, it's very hard to get an overview how things how things work one after the other and how process parts are organized. So in order to get more overview of the overall process, Albert Fleischmann presented an idea on last year's S-BPM 1 conference, and he introduced the so-called subject phase matrix. So this is a new concept, which is an additional diagram which can be used together with the other forms of diagrams in the subjectivity area and with these typical solutions. So in order to use this subject phase matrix, we have, well, as I said before, it was Barbara Handy. She studied the subject phase matrix in detail, and well, she tried to figure out some interesting features of the subject phase matrix. So she created a so-called meta model, which is in fact, in principle, some cardinality constraints between the entities which are used in subject phase matrices. And she also created a small little tool which allows to create diagrams which are subject phase matrix, and I want to present both of these things. So the meta model, well, I'm just mentioning briefly, and I want to show you the little tool which she programmed, and well, it has kind of, well, a couple of nice features as I think. Okay, so I'm going to present you, well, these were the goals we had with this research. So, well, we have been interested in optimization and enhancement of the subject phase matrix, and we created a small little tool, and we tried to find out more about the usability of subject phase matrix if you use it for concrete problems. There's also, we have also been thinking about the transformation from subject phase matrix to S-BPM. However, this is not really presented here in the talk, so this is part of future work. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to present you 3 parts of the work. So at first, I'm going to present very briefly the major concepts of subject phase matrix, and then the meta model which Barbara Handy created in her master thesis. Then I'm talking about the tool, and then further remarks. Okay, so let's start with the concepts. A phase matrix, a subject phase matrix, consists of 2 parts in principle, so 2 major ideas which are represented in these diagrams. The first idea is one has a process chain. So this is a simple linear sequence of process steps, one after the other. So after the talk of yesterday, I would like to call it something like the happy path. So this is how the workflow goes on in such a description. The other thing is, if you have the sequence of steps, then you have to coordinate that with the responsible subject. So there may be multiple subjects involved, and the happy path passes over from one subject to the other, of course. And in addition, you might have phases which represent the flow of time or the flow of action in this sequence. Okay, so these are the 2 different parts. And they may be presented like this. So this is the first part, it's a process chain. As you can see, so there are just processes one after the other, and the overall thing is then a process chain. At the moment, we are just talking about linear sequences. So this is very, very simple. It's just, well, the current state of our tool, for example, as we have created it. And down here you can see the meta model. So process chain consists of multiple processes, and it may have multiple errors between this process. So very, very simple. Okay. So the other part is, so this is the other aspect of the representation. We have subjects on one side and phases on the other side. So the diagram is very simple. It's just like swim lanes in usual UML diagrams. So we see one subject and the other, and the flow of time or flow of action is from left to right. Very, very simple. Okay, so the meta model, again, it's just, well, it's just cardinality constraints saying that a process has multiple subjects, a process has multiple phases, and a subject may have multiple activities. So that's very, very simple. Okay, so there is another interesting distinction here. Activities may be of 3 different types. This is quite important. So we have S activities, I activities, E activities, which means E is execution, I is information, and S is support. So they are just of different importance, I would say. Well, you could argue whether this is importance. However, in principle, we view E activities as the most important activities. They constitute the flow of actions within such a matrix. Okay, so here an E activity, it's well, it's the main activity in a phase. So you remember phases, they have been the colons in the matrix. So there's just one E activity per phase, so you have just one E activity in one colon. We're going to see an example quite soon, so you will see how it works. There may be other activities, so S and I activities, there may be multiple of them in one phase. An E activity corresponds to a subject. So this was the line in the matrix. Okay, what else? Yeah, important thing, when an E activity finishes, the corresponding phase finishes. So in principle, each phase corresponds to just one E activity. The E activity characterizes somehow the phase, and it says what's been done in this phase. Okay, and every phase in the matrix has an E activity, so you have a flow of E activities across the matrix. Okay, so let's have a look at the others. They are quite simple. So there's a support activity, which means that another subject can support an activity of the other subject, which is the master of the action here. Well, you may have multiple of them. The same holds for the I activity. You may have multiple of them. It's just information for others, so they can contribute to the action here. Okay, so how does a matrix look like if you take these activities? So you see, here is a, okay, I can do it that way. Here is a flow. Oh, does it do? Yeah. Here's a flow of E activities across the matrix. So in the first phase, subject 1 is responsible for the action. Next, subject 2 is responsible for the action, and in phase 3, subject 2 is responsible for the action. So the action just flows across the matrix. So it may vary between subjects, and it flows from the left to right in the subject phase matrix. There are other activities, like the S activities you see here. So they just give support to the acting subject, as I call it here. And you might have an I activity, which is adding information to the process. And well, we have some associations here. So there are arrows, they describe the flow of activities, and there are other associations. They describe how different activities are related to each other. Okay, so in addition, the meta model, well, I won't go into too much detail of this here. In fact, this is again like an entity relationship model, and it specifies cardinalities across the various concepts, so how they relate to each other. In part, we have already seen it. So there's an activity, well, an activity is might have well, is subdivided into E activities and helper activities. E activities, there's just one per phase. The helper activities, so you might have multiple per phase, and so on. So there are just the cardinality constraints, how concepts relate to each other. Okay, we found these diagrams very, very helpful in order to get an overview of the overall process, such that responsible persons are able to understand how things work and where we are at the moment and what's the next step and so on. So well, we tried to create a tool in order to model things. Okay, so let's have a little look. Let's have a look at the prototype we created. The prototype is a browser-based program. Well, this was just well, it was an idea we had since today Ajax is quite a rich environment you could use, and it has the advantage that it's completely platform independent, so you could also use it on the smartphone if you probably would like to. Well, we have not been too careful with browser detection so far. Therefore, we have to figure out whether the version we currently have works with our tool. However, in principle, the technology is like this. So it's just, well, it's implemented in JavaScript, and therefore it's platform independent. We need no installation. So you could copy it on your computer, or you could even use it from the internet if you have a server, well, it has all the advantages web-based applications have. So if we changed the software, we could simply update it by giving a new version to the web. The prototype has a couple of features we tried to create. So it should be possible to save and reload models. So we did this. We tried to get at least as easy to use handling, usability of the tool. So there should be not a lot of knowledge necessary to use this tool. And it should conform to the meta model as far as I presented it right before. Okay, so let's try to have a demo of the tool. So I installed it here, so let's try. Yes, so I tried. Okay, so this is just simple, well, standard browser. As you see, I've loaded the program before, and you have the subject face matrix as we have seen it on the slides before. So you could create faces and subjects. Well, yesterday I was watching a couple of participants down there talking about traveling problems. Yeah, it was Mr. Strecker creating that on the table. So I thought we could use this example here. So there are a number of subjects. Maybe there's a travel agent I'm talking to. So this is a subject we added here. Then we have a boss who is responsible for the money and the budget for the travel. So we add a boss, and then we have somebody who wants to travel. That's me. Okay. So then we have a couple of faces here. So for example, I'm going to detect on YouTube interesting talks on a conference named S-BPM 1, and I would like to travel to Moscow, maybe. Conference. Well, I just added. So next, I try to figure out how to travel there. So we add another phase like arrangements, travel arrangements, travel arrangements. Okay. So next I need a decision of my boss. Decision. Or in our case it's the dean. He has to provide the money for that. Probably, I don't know. That will be complicated. Well, yes. Then, we just do the booking, yes, booking. something like that. Okay. So now let's start and add the activities. So first, detecting the conference is an activity done by me. So I'm adding this activity. Visit S-BPM 1. 14. Okay, so here you can decide about the type of the activity. So we have 3 different types. So it's an execute activity or support or inform activity. So I'm using the execute activity. So in order to get some information, I probably would use a website. So maybe I'm going to add another subject. So it's not me, it would be the I2PM, which has some information. I2PM, who has some information about the next conference. So this is an information, announcement. So it's an informatory activity, which is responsible that I are interested in this conference. Maybe there's another, which is YouTube. You could add more of these information. So I would like to travel. So I'm going to ask the travel agent, so please give me some information about how to travel to the conference. So there's a new e-activity, like tickets. Tickets. Okay, so this is an execute activity, so we are going to add it here. Maybe the travel arrangement adds some more information about the hotel. So maybe hotel rates, something like this. You could add it here. Hotel rates. Okay, so you have an inform activity. Okay, so the next decision would be to send everything back to me, so I would have to add another me activity before the boss takes the decision. Yeah? So we could add a new phase, collect information. Okay, so that's me who is doing that. So I'm going to be a little sloppy now. Okay, so the next is the boss who has to decide, and then maybe I'm allowed to travel, so I'm going to travel. You see, this is how it works. It's a very small tool. You can add those activities. You can also edit these things, like we can say, so this has to be a decision. And we can add additional supporting activities and additional information activities by the other subjects. So, well, that's it in principle. We have possibilities to save the matrix and to load the matrix. So this is a HTML5 feature which allows to store it in the browser. And in addition, which is probably more interesting right now, for example, the overall data structure is stored, thank you very much, is stored in a JSON object, which you can simply cut and paste and store in a file and reload it into the browser, and then you get the same matrix again. Okay, so far for the demo. Well, yes, so the last part is about well, additional concept and what's still missing. So as you have seen, so these are all the features. It's quite simple. In particular, we don't have fancy features like decisions from one to the other. So we would have to model this at the moment as a series of actions. So there are no parallel actions, in fact. So well, we have been using it as a tool. So that's the major interesting thing about that. So if you would like to model something, just give us or send us an email. We can send you the tool and you can try it. So we would be very interesting whether it's helpful or whether you could use it. So it was designed to be a quick sketch, of course. Yeah, you can add it very quickly and use it. So the tool is to try these things. So what are interesting future things? Let's see. Well, it was to create process models together with participating subjects, so you can sit together with your clients and try to figure out, and they can decide, no, it's the other way around, you have to introduce something. Like I showed you before, you can add phases, you can add subjects, and so on. The meta model is a first concept. Okay, so let's see. What do we want to do next? So we like to introduce a couple of important concepts which we think that are needed for the practical use. In particular, we would like to have parallel processes and alternative ways for the E activities. Sometimes one would like to have loops to go back in time and to repeat a certain sequence of activities. Then we would like to check the concept with other domains. We tried it out for our notarial domain. And we have modeled a couple of things, but not the complete process. So we did a huge modeling of the notarial processes. However, the phase matrix was developed in the end of the project, and we just figured out whether it works for typical sceneries. What we also have to provide is a transformation from the phase matrix to S-BPM, which we think is possible. Also because, of course, it's based on the results of Albert Fleischmann, so it's just a matter of implementing these things. Okay. Well, here is an example of steps we would like to model which are not yet possible. Like you have to make a decision whether you, if for example, in our example, if the boss denies the travel, you have to take a different flow of the actions. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
So, thank you for your very clear outline of this very interesting meta model of the subject phase matrix. Are there any questions concerning the meta model and or the tool? So I have prepared one, of course. Have you tried, or are you planning to try out your meta model? Probably also with other meta modeling able tools. There are quite a lot of different modeling tools which are able to adapt meta models, and for which your approach could be a sensible extension, at least if the S-BPM transfer is done.
Well, we have discussed this this topic, but we are not so far in thinking about it. There is a meta model for the S-BPM, which is based on, which is an E-core model, I think, but we are not so far in our progress to transfer our meta model to these other concepts. So till now, no, but in the future, we are thinking about it.
I think it's quite interesting, especially when we are talking about the transformation of the model we are creating here. So at the moment, it's just a matrix, faces, activities, and so on. And if we would like to transform it to a more general S-BPM model, then it's obviously necessary to integrate the meta models and to to conform them. So otherwise we wouldn't be able to transform it, of course. But in fact, at the moment, we just concentrated on the tool, and the meta model is just it just outlines the overall complexity and the overall features of the tool so far.
I think we did it that way. We thought about all the things, but it's all
right. Yes.
So any further questions? Yes, please.
Are the alternative ways already considered in the concept of Herbert? Did he already think about it? Because you said there is only one E activity per phase, and when you have a decision and alternative ways, I don't know how this
we've discussed with him about these things, and in the paper of 2012 there was a quite simple process to show these things, but there already were some thinkings about these other things. But we are not at the final state at the moment, because it's very difficult to keep the clearness of these models, and on the other hand to model complex processes. It's kind of referring eight goals.
I just was interested whether Herbert already has something in mind.
There's some ideas existing, but
there's an obvious solution, just to interleave the alternative things, but that's probably not the way you would like to go. So you probably would have multiple, so kind of multiple parts of matrices. I don't know. So we have to consider these things. No, sorry. Yes?
Actually, two questions. So one question, you mentioned that it looks pretty much like swim lane, for example, if you model it with APK.
Yes.
So the first question would be, do you think it's possible to also find a way not only to transform from the phase matrix to S-BPM, or maybe transformation from APK to this phase matrix, where you just have to add which one of the activities is the executive one, and then have a way to start modeling subject-oriented. So that's one question. The other question is a totally different question. Does the model also work with multi-subjects, or is it only for single subjects?
The second question first. We have not thought about this at the moment, but yes, why not? It's at the moment there's no way to execute these processes directly. So you could call one of the subjects like Josef Schneeberger did. He called it I2PM, which is the group of something, and so the concept is open for these things, but we did not implement such things.
We did no particular implementation of a concept like multi-subjects, of course. Yeah, it's just a subject, nothing else at the moment. Yeah.
And the first question, there is some difference between the swim lanes and subjects as we use it here. The swim lanes, like in BPMN, you can use them to model subjects, but there is no restriction to use them only for subjects. You could use it for a lot of things, and in most tools, there are some BPMN tools which use these swim lanes for modeling subjects, but the concept of BPMN gives no hint if swim lanes are only for this purpose. And that's a little bit of difference between the subjects and the swim lanes.
Yes?
Maybe one comment to that. Inside the phase, right, you have swim lanes, and inside the phase, the various subjects communicate with each other, and this can be done concurrent. This means the phases describe a certain sequence,
Right.
but inside each phase, there are the subjects in phase 1 or phase 2, they communicate with each other. You can say, okay, you can give us a support request to a supporting subject, and you can do that to 5 to 10 other subjects, and then later you collect the results. This means they can work in parallel. This means you have, in a phase, you have concurrency, and this is a major difference to the classic swim lanes. And then it's true, in BPMN, swim lanes are nothing, more or less. It's a way to structure your model, nothing else. And many people assign a subject name to the swim lane. This is one way to use swim lanes, but you can have maybe some other 2,365 usages, or even more. I think that's a major difference.
And since it's parallel, so you also do not distinguish between different information steps within one phase, whether one step is before the other and so on. So if you have to decide about before and after, you have to introduce new phases.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the model. Yeah.
So, are there any other questions or inputs? No? Then thank you very much.
Thank you very much.